Good morning. How is everybody today? It has been, well, I think I'll let the train go by first. There's a funny story behind all this, but let's let the train go by. So it's comical. Today is March the 10th, 2020. It's Monday, and it's been 12 weeks, 3 months since Christine has passed away. And my current mood is a little, I think I'll wait to reveal what it is, because I really didn't know what my current mood was when I first woke up this morning. And it kind of came to me as I was driving to the park that I usually do these videos at. And I knew, last week's video, I might have been a little harsh in my tone and in my demeanor, and I'm just a little bit sorry about that. So I wanted to apologize for that, for last week's video, and maybe coming across a little grumpy. And so I wanted to do something a little bit different this morning, since it's such a beautiful day. I thought I'd just do that.
You see the hawk over here?
I do. Thank you.
Didn't want you to miss it.
Oh no, thank you. Yeah, someone else just reported there's a big hawk over here, just sitting on the ground here. I don't think he's listening to my video though. Anyways, so here I am, and I am pondering a lot of things this morning. And one of them was, maybe I was too harsh last week, so I apologize for that. And I will try to soften my tone this morning as I go through and explain some things. I just want to kind of talk what my normal week kind of looks like and what happens to me. Kind of, it's a pattern that I have observed and documented, and maybe it will help in some way with people helping to recognize the pattern that they might be in during a season of grief. So here's how my pattern usually works. Sundays and Mondays are usually the absolute worst for me, dealing with the grief and sorrow and pain and stuff. Monday is obvious because Monday is the day that Christine passed away. And so usually when I wake up, I wait for 3:35 because that's the time that Christine passed away. And so it's almost like I'm holding my breath all day long to 3:35 shows up on the clock, and then I can exhale. And it is usually a really miserable day. And so Mondays are difficult. Sundays are difficult for an entirely different reason. Obviously, most Sundays I'm in church, leading church, preaching. And for most of that time, when I would turn towards the congregation to preach, Christine was always on my left, on the left side of the church, and usually in the first or second row, encouraging me, praying for me, giving me certain eye signals for certain things that might have been I might be doing something crazy or something, but always encouraging me, and just knowing that she was there praying for me, and her reactions were beautiful to the flow of the sermon. If I made a point that we had not discussed together and it struck her, she would just, she would amen it and just, or rejoice or let out a hoop or a holler. It was just encouraging just to have her there, because it was just so meaningful for me to have her there, obviously. Towards the when Christine started to get really sick, she really didn't come to church much. she couldn't sit. It was very painful, and her energy level was pretty much nil. It was difficult because she wasn't there. And then just a few weeks, or maybe a month or so before she passed away, she came a couple of times to church, but she had to sit in the back. So in case she had to leave like quickly because of her strength or the pain, or it was just overwhelming for her. And we have a very small chapel, and it only seats about 100 people, and we only have about 40 people in there normally. So it's not like that she was, like I couldn't take a couple steps and she was right there. It was just, but she seemed so far away. And that is my current mood. She feels so far away. That intimate closeness that we shared on all levels of our marriage is gone. Never to return, at least on this side of the planet, of course. This side of glory, of course. So that's my current mood. I feel far away from her. In those last visits to church, when she was in the last row, I could still make eye contact with her. I could still see her. But something had shifted. And I just didn't realize what was happening. I'm not sure if God was preparing me for something, for her ultimate, when she went home to be with him. I don't know. And frankly, I'm too tired to talk, to think about it, to try to rationalize it out. Psalm 88. Psalm 88 says this: O Lord God of my salvation, I cry out day and night before you. Let my prayer come before you. Incline your ear to my cry. For my soul is full of troubles, and my life draws near to Sheol. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I am a man who has no strength. And since Christine gave me a lot of strength through our marriage, our covenant together, our relationship together, all the things we did together, feeling so far away from her is crushing. It's really painful. So back to my schedule. So that's why Sundays are hard, because the other part was, coming home from church, even if Christine didn't come to church, she was there, like they're waiting for me to tell her how church went, and how did my sermon go, and what was people's reactions to it, and that just kind of discourse was something that was normal in our life. About just about everything that we did was catching up to what happened, and what were conversations and people's reactions and things like that. And not having that anymore makes me feel even farther away. So Sundays and Mondays are bad. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, what usually happens is, because of Monday, I kind of go into this emotional tidal wave, or quagmire, or a quagmire full of tidal waves. I don't really know how to describe it, but usually the pain level is so intense that I've been taking long hikes almost every day, just to, when I can squirrel away some time. And last week I was like bending over at certain parts of the hike with grief, just holding onto a tree to keep myself from falling over. It was so hard. And that's kind of like what Tuesdays and Wednesdays are. They're this huge wrestle with my emotional state, with the forces of grief. And it's a battle. It's a huge battle. and I'll pray, I'll sing, I'll worship, I'll scream, I'll yell, I'll throw things into the river, and complain to God and cry out to God. And those 2 days are warfare on every level imaginable. And then Thursday comes along, and Thursday I start to kind of settle down a little bit. I'm probably worn out from that wrestle, and so my emotional state kind of goes into a numb state. Thursday is usually when we have our men's meeting Thursday night, and I try to gather myself up for that. I try to put myself back together so I can help lead that group. The men there are great, and I love them very much. Our men's group is a wonderful thing. And then Friday I kind of feel okay. And I don't even know what okay means, but it's just that I'm not having that huge struggle. I might have moments, that's the thing about grief. I could distract myself. I can get busy, and I have lots of things to keep me busy. And I could be so distracted, but I always feel like there's a hand on my shoulder. And it's not a nice hand. It is the grief reminding me that it's still there. So I might be busy paying bills, doing some sermon prep. I might be doing preparation for the men's meeting. I might be doing a thousand different things that could keep me busy. But I'm never unaware of the grief that is that's part of my life right now. But Friday is, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm doing okay. And then Saturday is, I start to, in the morning I'm usually okay, but as the day goes on, I'm starting to think about Sunday, and then this whole cycle begins again. And so that's been the typical pattern of my week. It's just to give you an insight into how every day is for me, at least on a broad sense. Lately, this past week, I did something different. I tried my best to celebrate every moment that I came upon. And it made a world of difference for my emotional state. It doesn't make me miss my wife any less, but it does kind of soften the blow of when grief comes around. And it's funny because the other day, I shared this at church yesterday, and I wrote it in my journal. The other day, and you could see the Hudson River behind me, and this is how it usually looks. It's usually pretty calm. It's a fast-moving river. It's affected by the tides and by the Atlantic Ocean, even all the way up here. The other day, Saturday, the wind was really kicking up, and I saw some pretty big waves on the Hudson River. The river looked very untamed, very wild, very certain parts of the trail, the water was kicking up and spraying me, and that's never happened to me on these trails. And the little beach that I usually go to sit and ponder and pray and stuff was completely. It looked like a tidal wave had just kind of like wiped it out. I'm interested to see what it looks like today. But I just thought how untamed everything looked, and how untamed grief is. And grief is untamed. There is no pattern to it. There's no rhythm to it. There's no predicting it. There's no understanding it. You just have to accept it and ride it out. And then I thought about how untamed God was. Now, God's a God of order, but He is certainly not tamed. If you haven't figured that out yet, you need to Look at that. And this is what I meant. You know, for weeks now, I've been trying to get God to handle my loss in a way that I wanted him to handle it. And what I mean by that, I was giving God certain parameters that he had to operate in order for me to trust him. And I'm just being honest. And since God cannot be tamed and put in a box or ordered around or expected to follow the directions of Jay, Saturday was a good thing to see the river so wild, because it reminded me how untamed God is and how wrong I was to try to dictate to God how to help me through this season. Now, I've walked with God for 50 plus years, and I know that I've always known that God was untamed. From my earliest childhood, I knew how wild God was, in the sense of what we understand tamed to be as human beings. God is nowhere near that. And I'm so glad he's not. I'm glad he can't be put into a box. And I'm glad he doesn't listen to my I'm glad he doesn't answer some prayers the way I want him to. Because I do trust him. And it has been hard because I felt like a man without strength. I felt and do feel today so far away from Christine. And I just wanted to express that part of it. I love the fact that God is untamed, and that I can't put him in a box, and that these prayers that I have that are selfish and that he still loves me through that. And so that's been good for me to rediscover again. Now, some of you know that I did start grief counseling with a therapist, and I'm proud to say that after 2 weeks of grief counseling, I've been cured. This has been an unusual experience for me, and I've stated it before. To be on the other side of the table of therapy was good, but it was just weird. And I think I scared this guy because I'm so full frontal in my grief that I started. He didn't even have to prime the pump. I was present. I was honest. I was brutally honest, and I think I blew him away with the way that I'm processing Christine's death. After the first session, which he was quite taken aback, and he gave me some homework, and it was to fill out this form with a whole bunch of questions about grief and what I'm feeling and what I'm doing about it and stuff like that. But also, it was a homework to write a letter to your loved one. I told him, I said I journal every day, and in part of my journal is part of my struggle, some scripture, there might be a poem in there, there might be a quote in there or whatever, but there's always a section where I write to Christine for a little bit in my journal, and just to tell her how I feel. So I said, I've been writing a letter, but I'll do the homework. And so I did. I wrote a 3-page letter, which shocked him this past Thursday. He says people don't usually do the homework, and if they do write a letter, it's usually about a paragraph. I said, well, I could have wrote more than 3 pages, but the 3 pages was a summarization of our life together. And he read it out loud during the session, and stopping at certain points to either comment or ask a further question, which was good. But after we got done discussing the letter, he said, Jay, he goes, I can't help you. You're processing far above what I could give you to do. And I started laughing because it's like, well, really? He goes, yeah, if you have a bad day, call me up and we can talk. He says, but really, I can't help you, and I don't want to waste your time. So I say that not to discourage people for going to counseling, but and I'm not saying he was bad or good. I'm just saying it was weird. But I did learn something in this. That grief counseling is good. And some of the things that grief counselors tell you, I don't know how helpful they would be to someone who is really into it. So, but I do think it's good, and I'm glad I went. I'm going to go check out another one just to keep people informed of what I'm doing, because of this one area. Now, I wasn't going to share this one area. I'm debating right now whether or not I should share what that one area is. Maybe I'll save it for next time. Yeah, because I don't know how calmly I can tell you about this yet. Let me go on for a different subject matter. So I want to encourage people, to find a grief counselor if you're into it. Now I've read and I've studied this over the past 12 weeks, and I've from the summarization of stuff that I've read, and I've read a lot, is that it takes about 18 months for the apex of this pain to hit, which means I've got a few months yet before this really hits me. And a lot of people are saying that that's when you should kind of check out grief counseling. So you might just want to keep that in mind and talk about it. And I'll be glad to talk about it with anybody if you want to direct message me later on. So, distance hurts. You can ask my kids. It was a kind of a running joke in our house when Christine would be gone for an hour or two, if she was shopping or having lunch with someone or just getting some private time of her own. I'd be going around the house saying, "Where's my woman? Where's my woman? I miss my woman." And it became this running joke among us. And Christine would come home and say, "Will you stop it? I'm coming. I'm always only gone for an hour." But although I joked about it, I really couldn't deal with Christine being apart from me for long, and it was a beautiful part of our marriage. And so distance really hurts me, and this distance hurts me. And I know that I know someday we'll see each other and all that kind of stuff. But right now, it sucks to be without her. It really royally sucks. And I'm sorry if you don't like that word, but it really does. So what's the point of this today? I'm not sure. I just wanted to be gentler today because I was kind of harsh and grumpy last week. But that was the week I was going through the woods and doubling over in pain along the trail. And if anyone came upon me, they wouldn't have known what was going on. They probably would have called 911. That's how deep my grief was. And for a Monday, I'm doing rather okay this morning. I don't like being apart from Christine. This really hurts. But I'm trusting that God's goodness is in all of this. I will always come back to that God's goodness is here, in part of us. So there you have it. I think I'll hold off on that one area of my life with this whole loss thing is having difficulty with, and I'll share with that maybe next time. But I think this we've gone on for quite a bit this morning. Thank you for all the people that have tuned in and are watching this. I'm sorry. Just remember that God loves you no matter what you're going through. And I know some of you are walking through some hard stuff. Grief and sorrow and pain it's not just my story. I know it's part of yours too. And I'm praying for those of you that I know are walking through stuff. I'd be glad to pray for others if you just wanted to direct message me. But I am grateful for the great love that God has for me, and I pray that you would feel that great love as well. And that's probably good for today. I love you all, and bye for now.